Well, boys and girls, it's that time again. It's time for the Successful Home Inspector Show, where we're here to share some funny home inspection stories, maybe some funny things that you found, how to increase your business. We're going to hear some success stories, maybe some stories that weren't so successful. Maybe we can learn from them. And we're going to share some resources here with you that help increase your business, and we're hoping to help raise the level of the industry as well. So sit back, and here's your host for the Successful Home Inspector Show, Preston Sandlin. Thanks a lot. Are you struggling to make your home inspection business grow? Well, have I got the answer for you. HomeInspectionFlyers.com. At HomeInspectionFlyers.com, you get 5 flyers a month. There are 3 sales flyers and 2 recipe flyers. And you can customize them to exactly what you want. And these make great flyers when you go to the offices to put in their boxes, especially if you're doing like candy bowls or something along that nature. Like I said, it's 5 flyers a month for $29.99, and they're very creative. And you just put in your information. They come as a publisher file, and you just put in your information, and then you send them off to get printed. You can send them off online, and you can get color copies for less than 10 cents a copy. It's a great way to go. I went from being a 1-man home inspection firm to a 7-man home inspection firm on this one strategy alone. So try it today. HomeInspectionFlyers.com. Thanks.
Mine, and I've always watched. I enjoy seeing his stuff. I think he owns a Wynn franchise in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and he's a great guy. One thing that I thought he'd really be a good interview is he reached out to me probably about a year and a half ago, and said he wasn't all that busy, and he was thinking about going back to the corporate world, and we talked a little bit back and forth, and lo and behold, about a year later, he reached out and said, "Man, I'm dying here. I got more than I can handle. I guess be careful what you wish for." So without further ado, Doug, tell us a little bit about yourself, because we'd like to get to know you personally.
Well, it's a short bio, Preston. I'm single with no kids, 50 years old, born and raised, and still living in Chattanooga, Tennessee. That's pretty much it. I just work, and don't even have a personal life anymore. I've been so overwhelmed this year that it's all I'm doing is home inspections.
Well, we will definitely dive into that. Because I'm sure there's a lot of listeners out there that have found themselves in your previous position and would like to be in your current position. So
Sure.
We'll delve into maybe some things you did, and they would be more than appreciative if you could give them some advice, because I know that's a common problem. But before we get into all that, Doug, not many of us grew up wanting to be a home inspector. I know I didn't, and I wanted to be an artist, believe it or not. Still do it on the side. So tell me, how did you become a home inspector? And also, what did you want to be when you were a kid?
Well, when I was a kid, actually, I wanted to be an artist also. My
Did you?
in college was for graphic art and ancillary art type things. I didn't stick with that and got out and got into the corporate world. Being a home inspector was never even on my radar. Didn't even know what a home inspector was. I spent 20 years with Blue Cross Blue Shield of Tennessee in the health insurance industry. Lost my job in 2006 unexpectedly. And initially I just kind of drifted, went to work for a friend of mine who owns a large custom cabinet shop in Chattanooga, one of the larger ones in the East Coast. Just kind of wanted to hang out and see what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to get into real estate investing, and I started trying to learn some ancillary things that would get me into that, the cabinetry, working with builders, things of that nature. I started attending classes on buying homes with no money down, those crazy seminars and things. And somewhere along the line, home inspection came into play, and I started looking at it. It looked very interesting to me. I got into it thinking that it would dovetail and eventually into real estate investing. But once I got into it, started studying and learning more about it, it was very interesting to me. And honestly, once I got into it, I wished I had done it 15 years sooner and got out of the corporate world long ago. It's just something that once I got into, I've taken to it. I really enjoy learning. I love the people I work with, the realtors, the clients. It's been a complete 180 for me. I went from sitting in a cubicle wearing a shirt and tie every day to crawling in muddy crawl spaces. And like I said, I wish I had done it 10 years sooner.
I hear you. You ever see those Dilbert cartoons, Escape the Cubicle?
Yeah.
I did
man.
I did a couple of years in cubicle hell. I mean Hades. Trying to keep this clean.
No, you were right the first time. It's hell.
I hear you. I would just, I'd just try to find an excuse to go get coffee or something. But and it's. I know there's home inspectors out there listening, and that's one of the greatest things about our job is we are our own boss. Of course, that's probably one of the worst things too. But
True. Right.
And I tell my wife sometimes I feel like I got the greatest job in the world, and sometimes not so much when I'm in one of those tight crawl spaces with a snake skin, but still better than the cubicle.
Exactly.
Well, Doug, so exactly, you sort of gave us a chronological there. Exactly how long have you been doing inspections, and what changes have you seen?
I purchased the Wynn franchise. I started looking when I decided I wanted to get into home inspections. I ran into the problem everyone has. Do I just get licensed, get trained, and start my own business, or do I purchase a franchise? So for me, I'm horrible at multitasking, and I thought I would go in and get a franchise. They already made the mistakes. The marketing's done, the price is done, everything's there. It's a turnkey package. I still have to do the work, and it's up to me to make it successful. But I knew if I had to do every facet of it, to designing brochures and everything, it would be just a disaster. So I purchased the Wynn franchise after looking at many others. I was very pleased with their reporting software, very pleased with the corporation, the home office, the people there, a lot of integrity in that office. So 2009, I purchased that, but I had a couple of other business ventures I was involved with. So for the first 2 years, really from 2009 to 2011, I really did home inspections on a part-time basis. And that's not something I would ever recommend, particularly if someone purchases a franchise. The Wynn business model has you doing so many inspections a year. It's kind of an escalating marketing plan that I'm in my 5th year now, and I really am where I should have been 2.5 years ago. Until I just completely got rid of it, divested myself of all other interest and went to doing home inspections full time and decided to grow the business. The point at which I did that is when I saw definite increases. It was there. So it's not something I don't think you can really do on a part-time basis.
No, I totally agree there, Doug. I talk to guys that want to get into the business and they want to do it part-time. Like a lot of firemen, they work a couple of days off, but what happens is, a realtor has a buyer coming into town and they're only going to be here Tuesday afternoon and they have to have that inspection then. And I mean, you have to make it for them, their schedule, not ours. So
Exactly.
I totally agree with you. 2 questions I had to follow up on that. I was noting while you were talking. The Wynn franchise, where is their central office? Where are they located out of?
Well, when I purchased my franchise, the central office was in Seattle, Washington.
Okay.
I spent about 3 weeks up there training, doing ride-alongs with existing franchisees in Seattle. But in 2011, 2012, somewhere in that area, they moved to Florence, Alabama, which is about 30 minutes south of Memphis, Tennessee. So now they're 2.5 hours away from me. But so they're we didn't have a big presence in the Southeast at that time. Most of the franchisees were West Coast and Midwest, but we're starting to now that the home office is here, they've kind of put an emphasis on the Southeast, and we've gained a lot of ground in terms of adding franchisees in this area.
Oh, okay, cool. And another question I had is Tennessee is, and I'm not familiar. Is Tennessee, or you guys have licensing in your state?
We do. Tennessee does license home inspection. It's very, very specialized in Tennessee. You have to have specific licensure for pest inspection, for chimney inspections.
Oh, wow.
Specialized contractors for various things. But, we definitely have to have a specific license for home inspections in Tennessee.
Is that a tough process to do? I know I'm going off the script here a little bit, but I'm just
really not. They do have some criteria you have to have, but they've essentially, just to get the license, you have to be tested, and they've outsourced that to an outfit out of California. It's a very lengthy multiple choice quiz, like 600 questions. I think it takes about 5 hours to take this thing. I was there all day. It seemed like. Once you do that, you have to have, of course, the standard $1 million liability insurance policy, and Tennessee also requires 16 hours of continuing education annually to maintain your license. So it's very similar to real estate agents in that respect. Just it's the entry bar is not set very high. I think it actually could be higher, but you have to have some minimal amount of training and experience, just at least education on it. You can study for, I didn't have a construction background. I've worked some construction jobs in my life, and the commercial cabinet industry, working with those guys and builders, but I just absorbed through osmosis some things. But just training for a month or two, I was able to, I would say with what I had already, I was able to pass the test first shot. It wasn't a real problem for me.
Well, cool. Yeah, your state sounds a lot like ours. We have 16. We had 12 hours, and then they went to 16 last year. But somebody told me they're going back to 12. I'm not sure. But our test was only 200 questions. But
right.
We're kind of
we had 16 hours, but up until last year, they were very flexible at what you could take. Most of my continuing education I get at the WIN Franchisee Conference, which is in January. But now they've ratcheted that down to where it has to be very specific industry-related marketing courses and things like that no longer apply. Courses that previously related to your business no longer apply. It's very specific to home inspections.
I understand. Well, Doug, tell me, are you a member of any associations? If so, which ones?
I am. I'm a member of NAHI, the National Association of Home Inspectors.
Okay.
I joined NAHI. Really, WIN gives us the option as to who we can join. They require us to be a member of one.
Okay.
Of course, my liability insurance prefers me to be a member of one so that I have some sort of standards of practice I'm operating under.
Sure.
It was my experience that the main organizations, NACHI, InterNACHI, NAHI, and ASHI, all have very similar standards of practice. They're almost identical. The differences are ASHI, when I came into it, you couldn't join as soon as you were licensed. You had to have performed something like 125 inspections before you could join.
I think that's right.
Something of that nature. So a lot of people, after they hit that 150 inspection mark or whatever the criteria was, they would transition into ASHI. I just never transitioned. I was fine with NAHI, with what I got out of them. I am considering moving to InterNACHI. There's also some regional and state affiliations now, Tennessee Home Inspectors Association, HITA, and some regional groups that are pretty good too. I'm considering moving just for continuing education opportunities.
Yeah, I hear you. I have inspectors, and I offer an incentive for them to join an association, and I really like the educational opportunities. And you know that Stephen Covey principle, sharpen the saw.
Absolutely.
That sort of thing. Oh, absolutely. And things change, I mean, we've got to stay on top of it.
It's fluid and
Absolutely. And we kind of just answered number 6 without even knowing it.
Yeah.
Looking at the next question, I was like, wow, that was our next question. All right, Doug, do you have a success quote you could share with us?
Yeah, I actually have one on my wall here in my home office. It's I'm not sure how to pronounce this guy's name. Dhirubhai Ambani. He was an Indian tycoon, multi-billionaire from the power industry. His quote was basically, if you don't build your dream, someone else will hire you to help build theirs.
Oh, I like that.
And I came across that quote after I left Blue Cross Blue Shield and had been sitting in a beige cubicle for 20 years. And I realized, I thought, I need to find another job. And then I thought, you know what? I'm never going to have any personal satisfaction or, a sense of accomplishment sitting in a cubicle again. All I'm doing is making someone else rich. I'm literally building someone else's dream. So in order for me to build my own and have some personal sense of accomplishment, I just knew that I had to kind of take my own path and do my own thing.
No, and I've watched you on Facebook, and I've vicariously, and I was glad you didn't go back to the corporate world, because had that discussion. I was like, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't go back. Don't go back.
Had a bleeding ulcer when I left there, and it all went away within about 3 months.
Yeah. Well, you went from a situation where you didn't have a whole lot of control to a situation where you control everything. But, by the same token, anybody who's out there listening, and they know, I mean, it's all, what is it? If it's going to be, it's because of me. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I love that quote. I've heard of one similar. If you don't have a plan, you'll become part of somebody else's or something.
That's exactly right.
Pretty close. All right, Doug, let's say that I'm a buyer or a real estate agent in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and there are a lot of home inspectors in your market. Why should I hire you? Is there something you do that others don't?
Well, what I've run into a lot lately, there is a lot of competition in Chattanooga. We have a lot of really qualified, experienced home inspectors here that do good work.
Right.
I am one of the few that is a single, non-attached guy with no kids. So I have an extremely flexible personal schedule. I am the guy that you can call and say, hey, my client's in town for the weekend. They've only got 5 hours on Sunday afternoon that are available. Can you do this inspection Sunday from 4 to 7? And yeah, sure. Absolutely.
I wish you'd move to Charlotte and come here, and it worked for me. No, I'm just kidding.
I've got one scheduled New Year's Day. I didn't even realize it was New Year's Day. After the guy called, he called me back and said, man, I just realized that's New Year's. That's not a problem, is it? Not for me. It's just another day of the week for me. So I'll be doing one Thursday morning. But, yeah, I can do them on very short notice, holidays, weekends. I don't like to do those things, but and I try to minimize it whenever I can. But I do have a level of flexibility. And also I love working with the people. Then I first-time home buyers, I love talking to them. They're scared to death. These people are embarking on the largest purchase they're probably ever going to make.
Right, absolutely.
And I'm standing there in front of them. I'm the guy that can hold their hand as they feel like they're stepping off a plank. It's become a very stressful process now purchasing a home. I really enjoy talking them off that ledge, basically. Just letting them know everything's going to be fine, talking them through the process, helping them out along the way till closing. I have a lot of contact after my inspection with a lot of my clients. I get a lot of Facebook requests, friend requests from previous clients. Hey, just thought I'd send you this request, see how you're doing.
Nice.
I really enjoy working with people.
I hear you. Well, and Doug, you're helping them with their dream. I mean, it's the American dream.
Absolutely.
And you're helping them with it. And there's something else I was going to say. Your flexibility is awesome. Another thing, and for any listeners out there who are one-man operation, here's an advantage you have over multi-inspector firms that you can advertise is you are the owner of the company. You always get the owner of the company out to do the inspection. I've always heard that advertise against what you're not. My being a multi-inspector, I would say that I have multiple inspectors that can, go different places at different times, but you have the advantage of saying you always get the owner of the company. The only thing I would caution, though, anybody out there who uses that is a great USP, unique selling point. But if you plan to hire people at some point, you might not want to use
will make that work against you at some point, and it can be used against you later in court, basically.
Absolutely. Well, and you're a one-man operation, right, Doug?
True. Yes.
Yeah. And I want to say this to people out there: there is nothing wrong with that. There are times I wish I was. It keeps it simple. I mean, you got a nice little profit margin there. You got a lot more control. When you go multi-inspector, and there's a lot of multi-inspectors, your profit margin goes down, and you lose a little bit of the control. You can make up, some profit but you actually have to hire a couple of guys before you get back to the profit margin. Well, you'll never get the margin, but the amount of profit, rather.
The volume, yeah.
But along with it come headaches. So there are trade-offs, and I absolutely have a soft spot in my heart for one-man operations. And, one day I might sell this business and go to the beach, and that's what I'm going to be again.
Yeah. That's actually the game plan.
Yeah, exactly.
Wynn does have a component in it. That's also a part of why I chose this franchise. They have a built-in component called the Sunrise to Sunset program, where they will assist in transitioning you to selling your business or transitioning it to a relative or son or nephew or whatever.
Oh, nice.
The idea is to grow your business and then ultimately sell it and retire.
That's a good thing. That's a good thing. And, you ever read that book, The E-Myth by Michael Gerber?
Yes, I have.
That's an excellent book. And he talks about that.
Yes.
We got to create a business, not a job, because you want to make it where you can sell it one day,
Yeah, exactly.
Or pass it on to a loved one or something like that. Well, changing gears here just a little bit, Doug. What do you do in your spare time?
Well, this year I haven't had any spare time. But in previous years, and hopefully next year, I love to travel. I'm very spontaneous travel. I love to just get on a plane and fly somewhere, hit the beach, whatever. I love the outdoors. Casual artist, trying to get back into that. Getting into photography, just digital photography. Going to try to get into that pretty heavy next year. And just relaxing and enjoying life, man. I'm very casual in my life and lifestyle. Just kind of take what comes and enjoy what comes to me.
I hear you. Two questions, Doug. Art, like what type of medium do you use? What are you interested in?
Right now, I literally put everything down after college, and I've got boxes of stuff that I just started unpacking about a month ago. Pen and ink and just charcoal sketching.
Oh, cool.
Very basic stuff. I've seen your work, and I was going to ask you what medium you're working in. Is that?
Well, I do oil, but then I've also got into doing digital.
It looked digital to me, and I thought, what is he?
I love it. Here? It's Corel Painter. I think it's up to 13 now. I started with like 10. It is awesome, Doug. It's awesome. And get a Wacom tablet. I actually. Mrs. Santa Claus brought me one Christmas before last, and I do it on that. But you can also buy it. But what's cool about it, Doug? You can simulate any. You can do oil, pen and ink, anything.
Sure.
And, you don't have to clean anything up. It's awesome.
Exactly. Yeah.
Love it. But if you ever, man, hit me on Facebook if you want to talk about that. Oh, one other thing I was going to say, on your photography, I've sort of gotten into that too. Are you doing like SLR or wanting to get into that? I have a great resource for you is where I'm headed with this.
I had my father was actually a professional photographer on the side as I was growing up.
Oh, okay.
He's literally done thousands of weddings, and he took all the Little League baseball and football photos. And I was I got injured in junior high school and couldn't play sports anymore, and I became the yearbook photographer. I had a dark room.
Oh, okay. So you're already ahead.
Yeah, I'm pretty familiar with that, but the digital stuff now is just light years ahead. And I just went out and bought a big Nikon outfit, and I want to get back into that stuff.
I'll tell you a good resource I found. I mean, there's stuff all over, Livid.com and all that. That's great. But one that really, you're going to laugh. You might want to write this down. Fro Knows Photos.
Fro Knows Photos?
Yeah, it's Jared Polin. It's this guy. He's got a big afro. That's part of his shtick, And, man, that guy's awesome. I mean, he brings it down to, I watch one of those courses on Lynda.com, and I love Lynda.com. But, it's telling me the history of the camera, and I'm like, man, come on, just get down to the meat of it.
Yeah.
Fro Knows Photos, Jared Polin. Check it out.
I'll check that out.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Cliff Notes, which is what I need. But anyway. All right. Well, tell us something most people don't know about you, Doug.
I love to gamble. I'm an amateur poker player.
I've seen that. I've seen it.
Are you good? Hit it 3 or 4 times a year at least. Hopefully next year I'll be there more. But would love to. This year I actually plan on playing in a few more poker tournaments, regional and World Series of Poker type events, and doing some traveling around to do that. But that's kind of my guilty pleasure, I guess.
2 home inspectors and Dan, Dan Huber, the ISN, that I've interviewed, all love to play poker. Man, we need to make that like it has been.
Dan is in Las Vegas, is he not?
Yeah, he is. He might be.
Yeah, he's just has to leave his house. Yeah, he's got it easy.
Yeah, I don't think I'd want to play against him though, because he was actually a dealer at one time. So I'm like, oh man,
exactly. Yeah,
he's probably pretty good.
I'm very familiar with that, but it's much like great sports athletes make horrible coaches. poker dealers do not make great poker players.
Oh, really?
It's been my
experience. Invite Dan to play next time.
Exactly. Some can overcome that, but it's not a affirmation. You're not definite there.
All right. Well, I'm gonna tell Dan. I'm gonna say Doug was talking junk about. No. All right. Well, Doug, you know as well as I do that if you do enough inspections and you're starting to increase, you're probably starting to see this. You're going to have an unhappy camper. I've heard it called, what is it, UHC. UHC. Well, how do you handle an unhappy camper? Do you have a process? What does that look like?
Man, I'm going to tell you, I was actually stressing over that just in the past week or two until I listened to the podcast from one of your previous interviews with Mr. Fox in Texas.
Oh, wow.
and you guys touched on that, and it just dawned on me. In my first 4 years, my first area when I get an unhappy camper is to try to remove the adversarial component from it. People call and they're already on the defensive and they expect you to argue with them or something of that nature. I just diffuse it immediately. I'm like, hey, very sorry that you're unhappy with the inspection. I'm going to be happy to send you a full refund, no questions asked. So that usually disarms them immediately. I've never had it not disarm them. All of the cases I've dealt with, that's been sufficient. In the first 4 years of doing inspections, I refunded 2 inspections, neither one of which I thought I should have, but I did anyway. This year, with the exponential growth, I was overwhelmed. I refunded 4 inspections this year. But I did over 400 inspections.
Oh, wow. So that's 1%, man. That's great.
Exactly. The inspections, I just finished an inspection this afternoon, was number 403 for the year.
Wow.
Huge increase, man. And with that increase, I didn't calculate that if you're increasing your volume, you're also going to get that extra unhappy camper, as you call it.
Absolutely.
Those increase proportionally. So my first avenue is to discuss it with them, find out did I actually miss something in the inspection, or is it just in the interpretation? There's a communication issue between the agents. Once I distill it down and decide that, you know what, this guy's just not going to be happy, I refund the money and have no problem doing that. And like I said, in the 6 cases in 5 years, that's worked perfectly. I've never had any other issues, but and it taught me that, and listening to Mr. Fox, that it just dawned on me. My issues are going to grow just in the same proportion, as my business does. So
absolutely,
you have to expect them and you have to anticipate them. They're learning experiences, and we were always taught that at Wynn. You're going to have that issue. You're going to miss something. We're looking at thousands of items. It is possible to miss something. Things change. Something happens the day after the inspection that gets put on you. Things of that nature. So you're going to have an issue. It's a learning experience. So I've already run just this year. Some of the issues I've had, I've headed off similar issues and before they happen, just based on that experience months previous. So they've been valuable learning tools for me.
I hear you, and that is excellent information out there that you put out there, Doug. And I hope a lot of people took notes. You're exactly right about the complaints rising.
Mm-hmm.
And something we've noticed over the years. I've been doing this since about '99. Chip, who's kind of our lead guy, he coordinates it. He says it's always around Christmas, before or after. They always seem to go up. He thinks it's like a money thing,
You know what?
He might be on something.
2 of mine this year were in January from inspections I did around Christmas of last year.
Those credit card bills came in.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Well, and something else I wanted to hit on here, because you said it. You kind of sparked a thought of mine. Here's another problem that you run into is pre-inspections. Well, first let me back up and say, it's hard to find everything in a certain amount of time. I always have an analogy. I say it's like finding a whole bunch of needles in a haystack. Each house is a haystack, and there's a whole bunch of needles in there. And there's a couple of big ones and a whole bunch of small ones. And what happens a lot of times, Doug, when you do a pre-inspection, I love pre-inspections and I hate pre-inspections.
I'm struggling.
Yeah, the problem with pre-inspections are you go in there, you do the inspection, they're happy, yada, yada, yada. Next inspector comes in, he finds a few things that you didn't, and of course they're saying, well, why'd you miss it? And are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay. I thought it dropped for a second. Well, I think the problem with this is, a home inspection is a subjective thing. Doug, I bet you could go behind me and find something I missed, and I could go behind you and find something that you missed. Now, hopefully, if there were big items, we both found the big items.
Exactly.
But those smaller needles are going to vary depending on our experience, our background, the whole 9 yards. So, whenever anybody who's listening out there, if you do pre-inspections, try to set those expectations early on. And I always say that, that inspector is going to come in and he's going to find some small things I didn't. But if he finds something huge that I missed and it's legitimate, I'll refund your money. I mean, I just set that expectation.
That's what I haven't done, and I really do very few pre-sale inspections because of that. I've kind of shied away from them. Am I doing a full inspection? Wynn has a component in the software to do what they call Find It First, and it's a limited inspection. It's basically hidden areas, attics, crawl spaces, roof, electrical panel, things of that nature. You're not looking at if there's a busted window in the living room, they should already know that. You should.
Right.
So why are you hiring me to come in and tell you the baseball got thrown through your window? You're hiring me to come in to look at floor joists and things that you can't see. So, but in the pre-inspections that I've done, the client wants the full inspection. They don't want that limited inspection. So I'm kind of struggling. How am I doing it? The pricing on it. Essentially, it's basically just another inspection. So I've got to do what you're saying. I've got to set the expectations and let them know that there may be some cosmetic or aesthetic issues that come up from another inspector when he inspects it. But yeah, as long as I catch all the major items and the safety items and structural issues, then that's what they're hiring me for, basically.
Yeah, I mean, that second inspector, he's not going to come in there and tell them the house is perfect. He's got to justify his fee. And the same for us. I can't tell you how many I've inspected that. And this goes, I hope all the listeners out there hear this, never, ever, never, ever throw that other guy under the bus. Because I am a believer in karma. And, it's an easy opportunity to throw another guy under the bus. And just don't do it. It's not professional. If anything, I always take up for the other guy.
I do too. Yeah, I will say I've had both real estate agents and clients hand me another inspector's report, and I will just tell them up front, so look, the inspection is a snapshot of the condition of the home on the day of the inspection. I wasn't there when he inspected it. I don't know what he saw, so it's not my place to really second-guess him. I can come in behind and say, this is what it is now. I don't know what it was the day he saw it.
Right.
But, I don't want to get involved in that. We do have a guy in town who prides himself. He calls himself the deal killer.
We got that guy too.
He actually calls himself that, and it's all about how he reports and the terminology. I rarely use adjectives in my reports. If your toilet is loose, it's just loose. It's not horribly loose. It's not dangerously loose. It's just loose.
Right.
I did an inspection. He had inspected for the previous buyer who walked away from it because the kitchen did not have ground fault outlets.
Oh, gosh.
The house was built in 1980. That
was my next question. It wasn't required.
It did not become code until 1988. But he put in his report and stated to the buyer that was an electrocution hazard. And
oh, my gosh. He said electrocution hazard?
An electrocution hazard in the report. The buyer panicked and walked away. The next week I get a buyer, and the seller was there. The seller was furious. And he wanted to be there when I did the inspection because the last inspector screwed him. So I said, and I pointed it out, and he said, well, how are you going to tell him that? And I said, I'm going to tell him exactly what it is. It's a technical issue. They don't have ground fault outlets. The age of this home did not require the ground fault outlets. I do recommend that they consider upgrading to those outlets in the future for safety consideration, but it's not a concern. You don't have to have them. It's not a requirement.
Not required, yeah.
So that's it. So you're not going to tell them they're going to get electrocuted? No, absolutely not. I would never do that.
Yeah, you know what? Do you know Wally Conway, the Happy Home Inspector out of Jacksonville?
No, I'm not familiar with him.
He's the Happy Home Inspector. He's got a couple of books out there that I'd highly recommend. One of his books, he has a really good way of describing that. He says that his dream car is a '55 Thunderbird, and the thing about a '55 Thunderbird, he says, if he ever buys it, it's not going to have anti-lock brakes. It's not going to have airbags. And by today's standards, it would be a death trap, But,
Sure.
But that's not why he's buying that car. And if he put all that stuff on it, it just wouldn't, and it's a lot. There's a lot of parallels. Obviously, we want smoke detectors and things like that.
Sure.
But, we it's like you said, if it wasn't required, it's a good idea, but you can't make that seller. And for goodness sakes, don't ever use the word electrocution in your report.
He actually told on another inspection in front of the seller, the buyer, the buyer's family, and both agents, I cannot believe this house is burned down. I would not let my children sleep in this house.
You're kidding me.
No.
Oh, my gosh.
No. Both agents called me and said they would never use him again. They would never recommend him. They could not believe he did that. And that's apparently he's been doing inspections for 10 years, so people still call him.
Wow. I know we could get into war stories, and we'll get on with it. I'll have to tell you this one. I had an agent that uses us quite a bit call us, one of her listings. And like you said, I do not throw other inspectors under the bus. If anything, I take up for them. It's hard to take up for a guy like that. But I had one, and she showed me the report, and there were some problems with the deck, the bracing or whatever. But he said could cause severe fatality or death.
Severe fatality.
Severe fatality? What?
As if there are multiple levels of death?
Or death. I'm like, so I got a kick out of that. Yeah, I actually have that report on my wall. I would never say a name or anything, but I'm like, wow.
I'm still curious. What is the level of fatality just lower than severe?
I guess you kill them after they're dead. I don't know what.
Partial fatality?
I have no idea. But anyway, well, this is a good spot here. Doug, we're going to pause for our sponsor for just a second.
Sure. Okay.
Hey, home inspectors out there, I'm going to tell you a creative, inexpensive way to increase your business massively. Go to homeinspectionflyers.com and get the flyers. You get 5 flyers a month. You customize them to yourself. They're turnkey, they're creative, and it's $29 a month for 5 flyers. That's less than $6 a flyer. And they are done by yours truly, Preston Sandlin, and I am a creative guy, especially when I don't take my medication. But I come up with some crazy stuff. It works for my business. I went from 1 inspector to 7 inspectors with this strategy alone. So again, for $29.95, you get 5 flyers. I do 1 per week. I send them off to get copied on the internet. I can get them for about 7 cents a piece, and I put them out in the boxes when I do my candy run. Works fantastic. homeinspectionflyers.com. Thanks.
And I'm enjoying this. This is good stuff. So, Doug, tell us about a time when you failed. Take us there, and what'd you learn from
it? In the first year, I did an inspection here. A gentleman from Texas had called me. He was moving to Chattanooga. He had already decided on the home he wanted up on what we call the mountain, Lookout Mountain in Chattanooga. It was an older home built in the 50s, and it was an estate sale. The children were selling the home. And he said, man, I think it's got mold. And I said, well, why do you think that? He said, because I got in the crawl space and I saw some stuff. You actually got in the crawl space? Yep. He said, all I want you to do is do a mold test. I said, well, I can do a mold test, but if you don't want an inspection. Well, at the last minute, he tells me he wants a full inspection. I get up there, and he shows up and says, just get in the crawl space and let's look at this mold right off the bat. Well, I'd already done about half the inspection, and we get in the crawl space, and sure enough, it was pretty rough. And I said, man, I can't call this mold. You never call something mold without doing a test on it.
Right.
So I said, it appears to be biological growth. I would prefer we take a sample, ship it to a lab, and we'll know. So I get the test kit out, we ship it off. And he says, man, he stops me right there after we bag everything up. And He said, don't even finish the inspection. Just send me what you have. Well, our reporting software has a lot of pre-populated comments in it, and I changed them as I go along. And it was early on in my first year, and I didn't realize. So I literally stopped right there. And he said, just send me the report as it is right now. So I sent him the report and said, I'll get you the mold results in a couple of days. Well, the report had some pre-populated comments that I hadn't gotten to yet because we stopped it in mid-inspection. He said, all I wanted was this right here. Well, he shows the seller this report that has some erroneous comments in it. This guy wigs out, threatens to.
Oh, no.
You know, it's hard enough to sell a house in this market, and I don't need your ridiculous And I explained to the guy, I said, look, those comments shouldn't have been in there. They were pre-populated. I did not finish the inspection per his request, and it didn't dawn on me to go in and remove all of these pre-populated comments and the rest of the report that I hadn't finished. I said, well, here's what we'll do. I said, I'll be happy to do a free pre-sale inspection for you, go through and do a full, thorough analysis of your home, print it out, give you a nice report, and you can fix the things that need to be fixed or build it into the price of your home, and I will not charge you a dime for it. And I said, I can guarantee you sell your home. And he immediately said, no, it's not a problem. He said, I'm just upset over the death of my father, and, you know, families arguing over this home. And, you know, once I did that, he was fine with it. Once he realized I wasn't trying to shaft him and make it difficult to sell his home, he was fine with it. But, you know, I felt really bad. That was a learning for me. It's just to be thorough. Even though this guy was adamant, just stop right here. We don't need to go any further. I needed to finish the process and do my due diligence, finish the work as I should have. That was one that early on taught me don't cut corners. You know, don't cut any corners. Don't try to speed up the process. An inspection, when people call me and say, how long will this inspection take? I say it takes as long as it takes. I generally allot 3 hours, but this one this afternoon took 3.5. Should have only taken 2, but there's some complicated things in the attic, and getting into the crawl space was complicated, so I spent substantially longer than I normally do. It takes as long as it takes. So you just got to do it. But I felt like that was a failure that I learned from, and there have been a couple of others where I didn't like the report, and you know, I get caught up a lot of times, my own issue. There are so many people involved in the process, the lender, the selling agent, buying agent, appraiser. Things are happening in the process that I don't have any control over, but I get caught up in it and feel like I'm part of it too, and I really need to separate myself from the rest of the real estate transaction, and that's one of the things I've got to do better this year.
No, you're exactly right, and everybody's trying to bend you a little bit this way or that way.
Sure.
And those typos will kill you. I've had a couple. I had one where one of my guys, the AC was 11 years old, and he just put one. He didn't hit. He thought he hit it twice, and he only hit it once. He said it was 1 year old.
That's a big difference.
Oh yeah, and then the thing broke.
Still under warranty.
Yeah, and we had to refund their money on that, and it just. You got, and I tell them guys, you still got to double check, read it, and we have those canned statements as well. You just got to be careful. I mean, you really do. So, all right, Doug, on the other end of the spectrum, can you tell us about a victory you had, or an I made it moment, or something along that nature?
And I made it moment just actually kind of oddly happened recently. I was one of our local, the Chattanooga Keller Williams office, the main office, does a charity event every year for a local children's home. They have I call it the Band Slam. They bring in multiple bands, and it's $20, all you can drink, and you can listen to live bands all night long, this kind of thing. And I sponsored home inspectors. We buy the beer that they sell. So, it's one of the things we do every year. And I was taking my kegs to the event this year, and when I showed up, there were 2 home inspectors, 2 of my competitors there. One of them is a fairly new guy, and we started talking, asking him how business is going. He's a young guy, probably in his mid-20s. Right. And he asked me how business was, and I said, I've been blessed this year, but I really need to do a lot better job next year so that I can get up to where the big dogs are. And they both looked at each other, and they started laughing, and he said, you serious? And I said, yeah. I said, why? And he said, you don't understand. You are the big dog. He said, you're the guy we're chasing. And I said, what do you mean? He said, man, are you serious? And I really honestly was taken aback. I didn't know what to say to this guy. And he said, you're the guy we're all chasing.
Wow.
And I left there going, holy cow, I really had no clue. Really. I mean, I knew my business had increased and my presence had increased a little bit in a lot of these offices, but that really caught me off guard.
Well, this might be a good point, good break. 'Cause I don't know if I actually have a specific question to that, but like I talked in your introduction, what do you attribute? Because, I know about a year and a half ago you reached out to me and you said that,
it wasn't working.
It wasn't working, and we talked. And what do you have any ideas? Did you do some things different? What do you attribute to the increase in your business?
One of the things they gave us at Wynn in training, one of the first days, I have it sitting on my desk right now in my office. It's a little sign that says, "You can't make any money sitting here."
Right.
And they said, put this sign on your desk and look at it every day when you're sitting there, because it should motivate you to get off your butt, get in your car, start talking to realtors. The real issue in this is me. I was doing a lot of things that were easy, emailing, sending out flyers and brochures and things. I wasn't doing the face-to-face. I wasn't doing the groundwork, and I needed to be showing up at open houses on Sunday talking to realtors. I needed to be in those offices. I needed to be at their business networking events. I needed to physically be present because they have a short memory. And if you're not there, there's another home inspector in that office shaking hands and buying them breakfast, and he's in there going, hey, just getting started, would love for you to use me, give you a discount on this inspection, all that kind of stuff. It's out of sight, out of mind, and unless you're physically present, they will just kind of forget. So I started doing the things I should have been doing. I was just a lot more diligent. I put in a lot more hours in window time, windshield time, and a lot more pressing of the palms and just face-to-face meetings. And when it hit, it was overwhelming. It was like the floodgates opened.
Oh, I know. You sent me a thing saying, man, I be careful what you wish for. I'm dying here. I mean,
over 100% increase in business this year. From last year. Over 100%.
Wow. So the sign says you can't make any money sitting here.
You can't make any money sitting here.
I am going to have to put that over my desk. Well, cool. Well, Doug, I know you're working all the time, and you probably don't have a whole lot of time to read. I listen to books, actually, on audible.com, which I love.
I do, too.
Oh, cool. Well, do you have a favorite book that you could recommend to our listeners, and what is it about that book that really appeals to you?
For home inspectors and really anybody that's getting into the business, it's all about motivation. Your business, particularly as a sole proprietor, if you're the one starting it and doing all the work, it starts and ends with you. You're responsible for your success and your failure. It's a double-edged sword. The good thing is your business you're responsible for your business. The bad thing is you're responsible for your business.
Right.
So I'm a big proponent of motivational books and success books, and a big proponent of hanging around successful people and talking to successful people. You become the people you are around. I'm a big believer in that. Take negativity out of your life. Start being around more positive, motivational people. And those books and audio books and things of that nature, I live by those things, really.
Cool.
The last book I read that I really enjoyed was called The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson.
I've heard of that.
It's just a book about doing very small incremental increases every day. If you've got a book sitting there that you haven't read, read 10 pages a day. Don't try to read the whole book. Try to do a very slight increase in if you're not working out, do 2 push-ups tomorrow. Then the next day, do 3. Do just very slight incremental increases, and then by the end of the year, you've increased 100% in all of those areas that you wanted to increase. It's just how big your life can change in the span of 1 year if you just do very small, slight incremental increases every day.
And that I'm with you. And if you like that book, there's another book that's really close. The Compound Effect. Darren Hardy. He's the guy who is the editor of Entrepreneur Magazine, and it's the same type of thing. And I know people are listening, oh, yeah, well, everybody knows that. But you'd be surprised. I mean, he talks about, like, 3 guys who were roughly the same. And, over a period of time, just like what you said, one guy, just did a little bit of workout, and he did a little bit of reading or trying to sharpen his saw, so to speak. And the other guy didn't, he ate a little bit more and he gained a little bit of weight, and it was incremental, but 10 years down the road, obviously the one guy was doing really well, and you know what? He was happier in his family all around.
Sure.
It carried over, So.
It's a quality of life issue. It's not, nothing is a sprint. We all have this, America's probably the worst. We have this we want immediate gratification, microwave mentality. Nothing is a sprint. It's all a marathon. So if you want a better quality of life, start making incremental increases or changes in your personal habits, whether it's eating, whether it's financial, saving money, spending money, learning what you do in your business, with your family, with your religion, whatever. Small, minute increases over time will give you a much better quality of life.
You're right on it, Doug. You're right on it. I think you might have a career as a speaker too, man.
I've read all this stuff. It's ingrained in my head now, man. I've got a whole library of Robert Kiyosaki and
Dad Poor Dad.
I've got all that stuff.
I hear you. Well,
Anthony Robbins.
Oh yeah, I've got all this stuff. I call it, like you said, the windshield university. When I'm driving around.
Exactly.
Well, Doug, I tell you what. Tell us, do you offer any ancillary services? Like radon, anything like that? What do you?
I do. I'll do radon tests and mold tests and those things. It's very rare. I have actually. Next year, I'm actually going to. I've never really gone out and marketed those things. Next year, I'm going to do more marketing, particularly on radon. We are in an EPA high zone for radon. All of the radon tests I've done in 6 years have come back positive, even though they're well below the EPA 4 picocuries per liter standard. They're all around 2 to 2.5. This is a very high radon area on the EPA maps, but I'm going to market that a lot heavier next year. Ancillary services, I'm going to be adding thermal imaging next year. I use thermal imaging now, but generally only as a backup to what I already see in an inspection. Moisture in walls, things of that nature, tracking down leaks, air leaks in vents, ductwork, things of that nature. I'm going to try to become probably level 2 certified thermography next year and start doing providing a commercial roof scanning as an ancillary option or ancillary revenue stream, if anything else.
Oh, cool.
Be doing some of that, and then probably going to try to add pool and spa inspections next year. Here, Chattanooga, very rare that the home inspectors do that. I'm going to try to become more knowledgeable in that area and get certified in that and start offering that. It really hasn't come into play much, but it's just something I would prefer to do than say, I don't know what to tell you, call this guy, just farm it out basically and give him a couple of names to call right now if I do run into that.
Yeah, well, and it'll probably lead you to some more higher end inspections too.
That's yes, exactly.
I know a lot of guys do sprinkler inspections for that. I don't, but I probably should. Doug, I got 2 follow-up questions on that about your infrared. First question is, what type of camera do you have? What do you like about it?
A FLIR 6, I guess it is. It's basically the entry-level model. Of course, now I guess they added the iPhone adaptation model at the entry level.
I've got that. The FLIR 1.
It's neat. It's very neat. I played with the prototypes out in Las Vegas, as a matter of fact, a couple of years ago when they kind of rushed it to market because a competitor was putting one out, and they knew they needed to get one out there. They didn't really want to, but I'll be stepping up in order to do. I mean, the FLIR lower end models are fine for home inspections, for looking at overheated breakers, overheated light switches, failing switches, things of that nature, tracking down your issues. But for high-end thermography, for roof scans, commercial flat roof scans, you really need an upper-level model. So I'll have to be scaling up as I take on those jobs.
Yeah, I've got 2 Testos and 2 Flukes, and I bought that FLIR 1 just to kind of play with. And it's, I mean, it can.
It's neat.
Yeah, it's neat, but I think it's 60 by 80 or something. And
yeah, it's very low resolution, very limited.
Yeah, but it's cool. The second question to that, to get your when you go into level 2, where are you going to get that? Just out of curiosity.
FLIR has. I attended when I bought my camera. I got a free week-long seminar in Las Vegas. One of the reasons why I bought the camera so I could get a free trip to Vegas.
Yeah, good gamble.
Yeah, there are a couple of outfits. Gosh, I can't even think of the names of them now, but that offer this training. They're trying to set standards as to create. I mean, it's basically becoming its own industry.
Right.
Level 3 gets into medical thermography. The level 3 thermographers were doing. The guys I talked to were scanning racehorses.
Right. Right.
One of them, as a matter of fact, had found a hairline fracture in one of the horses that ended up winning the Kentucky Derby 2 years ago. So,
United Infrared. Was it United Infrared?
United. Yeah, United.
What's that guy's name? I've talked to him too.
So I saw all those scans and everything. That saved that horse money, because if had they run it the next week, if they had anticipated running it in California, it would have snapped a leg and been dead.
Oh man,
so
good thing he found it.
That thermography saved them millions and millions upon millions. But that's something I would not be interested in. But the level 1 is just essentially use of the equipment and better some industrial, light industrial machinery, bearings and motors and things of that nature. You scan a lot of industry has. If you can scan a motor in a printing press or something, find a bearing that's about to fail because it's overheating, you can save them tens of thousands of dollars, because that bearing fails, it seizes up, and it's a dead press.
Absolutely.
So, those kind of things. Industrial, commercial electrical panels are actually supposed to be inspected. I think the code says annually, but nobody does it.
No.
So in the future, that's going to be enforced a little more. So infrared thermography is going to be able, that's an opening there. But there are a lot of avenues that you can do with it that branch off from home inspections.
Absolutely. Well, and Doug, I tell guys all the time, there's a lot of inspectors out there, and what you want to do is offer value that the other guy doesn't. Don't compete on price, because that's a race to the bottom.
Absolutely.
That makes us a commodity. Honestly, I tell them, that professional equipment magazine or something like that, get a special piece of equipment that you can do something nobody else can do, get trained on it, and that gives you an edge. That's something you can offer that the other guy does.
Yes.
Don't ever throw the other guy under the bus. And Nathan Thornberry says this all the time in his books too. Everybody wants to do a good home inspection, but I always want to preach, compete on value, provide something that the other guy doesn't. Don't undercut him, don't talk bad about him, and don't cut price against each other. Provide more value. Anyway, I'm preaching here. I better get off my soapbox.
Well, you say that, but I have actually gotten a lot of inspections. The local Keller Williams offices here have a preferred vendor program where they have 3 home inspectors in each office that they tend to steer more business to. I'm in both of the local offices as one of their preferred vendors, and when they have a client, a buyer, they give them a sheet with all 3 of us on it. Here are the inspectors that we generally use. And what I do when one of them calls me and just price checking, they'll get the price and they'll say, well, I've got a couple of other inspectors to call, and that tells me immediately that they're working with Keller Williams, that they gave them that sheet, and their other 2 guys are on there. And I'll say, well, who are the other 2 you're calling? And they'll say so-and-so and so-and-so. And I just tell them up front, I'll say, look, I'm going to tell you right now, you can call either one of those guys. They're both experienced. They both have a lot of – one of them has far more construction experience than I have. They've been doing it longer than I have, and they do great work. You're going to be very happy with any of those 3 that you call. If I don't get the business, if you call one of those 2, you're going to be happy with the product they provide. I've seen their work. I've seen their inspection reports, talked to their clients. And I think you're not going to be making a mistake by calling either one of them. Almost invariably, they call me right back and say, you know what, I want you to do the inspection. Several of them have even said, because you did not throw the other guys under the bus.
Yeah, that's awesome. That is awesome.
I've had multiple clients tell me that that's why they called me back, because they thought I spoke highly of their competitors, so they're going to use me.
Man, that is awesome, Doug. That is awesome. I was so afraid you were going to say, but the reason you should call me is this, but you didn't, and this story ended a lot better than I thought it was going to.
I'll tell them, I would love to tell you that those other two are crackheads or drunk, but the reality is, to be honest with you, they do great work, and you're not going to be unhappy if you call either one of them.
See, that's what I'm hoping that we can get across in this podcast to everybody who listens. Keep it professional. Do not throw the other. Because if you throw the other guy under the bus, you're taking our whole profession down. And, there's some saying that, what you say about, it says more about you than what it says about the other guy, And
I've got a ton of room for improvement in both my product and how I do things, how I operate. I can even see glaring holes in how I operate. So it would be real easy if I started critiquing other inspectors and throwing them under the bus. It would be very easy for them. I'd give them plenty of ammo to do the same to me. So
yeah, and it's nobody wins. Nobody wins.
No, nobody wins that war.
Well, speaking of being thrown under the bus, have you ever had a contractor throw you under the bus? If you haven't, you will. I'll promise you. How do you handle this? Do you have any ideas of how this can be prevented?
Well, I don't know if I've been thrown under the bus so much. Just that I'll find an issue that I know is even though it's labor intensive and maybe materials intensive, it's easy for a contractor to repair an item, and I'll tell them to call here. You might want to call these contractors and get some estimates and things, and the contractor will get there and he tells them they need an entire new house. We need to cut. They scare them into, and then they call me back and say, well, why didn't you tell me? It's not necessarily been throwing me. I don't know that I've been thrown under the bus by a contractor.
Well, you know what? How about an opportunistic contractor came in behind you? How about that? Would that be more accurate?
I will tell you one problem I've run into. I did an inspection on a flip house, a very small house, 1,200 square feet, just perfect square. Got in the crawl space, clean, new vapor barrier. You could see end to end, nothing in there at all, just completely clean. The real estate agent calls me that night and said, we've got a problem. Well, what is it?
Oh, boy.
The pest inspector came in behind you and found rats and mold.
The mold.
And I said, you've got to be kidding. Well, turned out, I went back, and then the owner of the house went under there with me. We found nothing. And
let me ask you this. Was it dusty? Did you come out, was it dusty? Like you could,
no.
You know what I mean? See, it's dry.
No, it's
dry.
They had literally put the vapor barrier down 3 days before the inspection. It was still jet black, no dust on it. The flippers had completely gutted this house. Turns out it's a local company that are one of the larger pest inspection companies. Hell, they have 20 trucks. Was scaring people into buying this service. I started telling them to get second opinions.
Boy. You get me started. You get me started. Go ahead.
I do have one that I got thrown under the bus. It was one of the refunds. Last December, I did an inspection. I could not get in the attic. The drop-down ladder for the attic was in the garage, and the seller had left a Yukon SUV parked right under it, so I couldn't access the attic.
Oh, how
I put in the report, I put a picture of that where you could see the Yukon blocking the access. You couldn't pull the ladder down. So I can't get in the attic, so there could be conditions up there that I'm unaware of. I just want to let you know. Well, buyer gets in there, and lo and behold, they find snakes in the attic.
Snakes, plural snakes. Oh my!
Multiple snakes. And the pest guy tells them they've got a rat infestation in their crawl space. Well,
was this the same house you were talking about before, or a different one?
Nope, it's a different one. I had just bought, the week before, I just bought my Nikon D90, and for some reason on that inspection, I decided, you know what, I'm going to take this thing out. I don't drag a Nikon digital camera through the mud, you know.
$1,000.
But I got in that crawl space, and for some reason I took that camera with me, and I took like 200 photographs, just snapping pictures, seeing how fast the flash would go, doing
Sure.
It was another clean. It was a huge house, but a clean crawl space. And she wanted her money back. She was threatening to sue because the treatment was $1,500 to remove these rats from the crawl space and snakes from the attic. And I said, First of all, if you've got a snake infestation, you do not have a rat infestation.
I was thinking that when you said that.
You're going to have one or the other. But he told her that clearly I didn't even get in the crawl space, that these home inspectors just opened the door and look in there. And I didn't get it because he found dead rats in there and carcasses, bones that I should have seen, and it was ridiculous. Well, I sent the real estate agent a disc that had 62 or so pictures of this crawl. I usually take 2 or 3 if I need them in a crawl space. I had taken all 4 corners, angles, everything. And I said, man, the only thing I can see is over here they've installed a new pressure valve, main valve coming in, and there's about 2 feet of fiberglass bat insulation that's hanging down where they pulled it down to run this pipe through and never stuffed it back up in there. And she used that picture as the proof that rats had got in there and pulled that insulation.
Oh, please.
So that guy sold her a $1,500 treatment for something that didn't exist and told her that I didn't even get in the crawl space. And so I just refunded the money. These were both good agents. The selling agent and the buying agent were both agents that sent me a lot of respect. So I just refunded that $375 and said, you know what, this will offset it. They gave her $600 apiece. I gave her $375, and she dropped her bread to both of them.
Well, Doug, I got so much to say. I know this is your interview, and I don't want to and I'm sure the listeners out there, damn, Preston, quit talking. Let Doug talk. I have so much to say because you're preaching to the choir here. So many things. First, let me say something about the people who come in after us. You know what we're just going to start doing starting Thursday, 2015? All our guys are going to have GoPros, and they're going to run them while they're in the crawl space.
I considered doing that. I considered buying one at Christmas for that same reason, because this is starting to happen more and more.
Yeah.
I'm saying, you know what? The city inspector came behind me on one and bailed me out. She was threatening to sue everybody because the flipper was actively working on the house. That house that the pest guy said had mold and rats, when I came back the next day, he was under the house working on the plumbing. Well,
oh boy,
he changed the plumbing out and he sloped it improperly. Now, when I did the walkthrough with the client, everything flushed, flowed, and drained properly. I flushed toilets for her. We flowed water in the bathtub. She gets in the house, and as soon as they flush the toilet, it comes up in the bathtub.
Because and they're going to say you missed it. Exactly.
Yeah. And the city inspector, she actually got the city involved. He came out there and said, look, this inspector's not responsible for this. The barcodes and price tags are still on this plumbing. This guy's installed this in the last 3 or 4 days.
Right.
The inspection was done last week, and he said this guy came in, and she knew that he was there working on the home after, so they let me off the hook, but the agents ended up having to pay $1,500 for plumbing repairs.
Wow. Couple of things I have to say about that. We want to run them like GoPros, like a dashboard camera for a police officer, so that we have a record of exactly what happened and what was going on. And a couple of things. Another thing, when things go wrong, they always say, well, the inspector said it was fine. I want it on record what we said, the presentation. I want the whole 9 yards. I want a record of it. We had a thing where a garage door, I get a call from the listing broker, and they said, the garage door, the seller says you broke it. And I called my inspector, and he said, Preston, I pushed that button, and it wasn't locked or anything like that. It just started making a god-awful noise, and I just put it right back down. It was broke before we even got there. And and they said, that we did it, and they wanted like $500. Garage door guru came out and fixed it, and blah, blah, blah. And, he was giving me the riot act, And what am I going to do about it, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, let me do a little research. And I contacted Garage Door Guru here, and I got in touch with the guy, and he put me in touch with the technician. And he called me back. And it's a good thing I didn't actually answer the phone, because he left a message, and this was what his message said. He's like, I'm not exactly sure why I'm calling you. My boss told me to call you. He said, I did that thing out there, and I told the This is exactly what he said. He said, I told the homeowner, yeah, that thing is wore out. It's a cheap builder grade. And he asked me, did the inspector break this? And he said, nah, it was wore out anyway. The homeowner asked him that, and he told him no. And that's what the guy, I take that and send it back to the realtor. I said, I'd love to help you, but honestly, he even told, well, of course that didn't end well and whatever. But I mean, really, you want us to pay $500 for something that the guy told you
exactly
we didn't break? I mean, anyway, I know we could tell war stories all day long. But the second part of that, though, is the mold remediation specialists.
Yes.
These guys are driving me nuts. And a lot of them are, like you said, pest control. I think they figured out there's not a whole lot of money in killing ants and roaches, but there is a whole lot of money in mold remediation.
Absolutely.
And there's a whole lot of crawl spaces out there. And some of these guys, just the fact that somebody called them out there, they're going to come out and, say $7, $8, $9, $10, $12,000 for a mold remediation, whether the people need it or not, Doug. And it drives me crazy. I mean, I've had them come in behind us, and they're dusty. I mean, it's so dusty under there, I'm coughing, which means it's dry, which means
exactly.
And you got that mycelium, basically the camelback cricket poop, on every crawl space. And they're, and the problem is, Doug, once they get I'm on my soapbox, sorry. Once they get that idea in their mind, they use that sphere, you can't, that boat's left the harbor. I mean, you can't convince them otherwise. And I'm like, these people are using
the homeowner or buyer doesn't have it. If this guy who's a professional tells you you've got mold in your crawl space, you're going to panic and write that check. You're not going to ask questions.
Oh yeah,
I told my agents to get a second opinion.
Oh yeah, and get one by somebody who doesn't do the work. I mean, I've actually got caught up in this a couple of times, and I asked the mold guy, I said, "Has anybody tested it?" Well, no. I'm like, well, how do you know that it's toxic? And anyway, we got to move on. But can you tell it's still sore?
Exactly.
Yeah, but anyway. Well, I want to ask your opinion on something else. And we've talked extensively about this, about hopefully raising the bar in the industry and the professionalism. I'm bothered by what I see in home inspector forums sometimes. There are some great guys on those forums, and there's some great people who will help you. But there's also some people on there that would love to tell you how much they know and how much you don't know. And, I have a problem with that. It's not professional, and it shouldn't exist. Do you have any ideas or opinions?
I know exactly what you're talking about. I mean, someone will ask I'll give you an example. I use a telescoping ladder.
Right.
A 16-foot telescoping ladder. I've had it for 6 years. It works perfectly. Best tool I've ever bought. Weighs 35 pounds. Gets me on any roof I need to get on.
Right.
I've never had an issue with it. Someone asked a question on a forum, and this was a year or two ago, about those ladders. Should I buy one? Should I not buy one? This guy who claimed to be a home inspector got out there and said, anybody that buys this ladder is an idiot. If I ever saw a contractor show up at my house with one of these ladders, I'd tell them to get back in their car, that they don't even deserve a life. They're dangerous. And I'm like, really? I snapped the rung on a Werner aluminum ladder just 4 years ago in my garage. Those things aren't any better than anything else. But these guys all offer an opinion, and not even an opinion. They're offering fact according to them. I don't get involved in those. There's so much ego in it that they're right. This is how we do it. I've been doing this for 25 years or whatever. You're not going to change their mentality, so there's no point in getting in an internet argument with them. I don't even involve myself in those forums if I can avoid it. Those are the same people that you put a YouTube video out there of your puppy, and then they have some horrible comment.
Right.
There's something about the internet. A guy that doesn't have to be face to face and actually defend his position logically or with facts, he can anonymously post something out there. Something about the forum itself lends it to those people's egos and mentality. I just try to stay away from it. It gets back to the basics for me. Next year, I'm actually going to try to do fewer inspections. I'm going to do them better. I'm going to try to improve my product, with the volume increase this year, it created scheduling problems for me. I was overwhelmed. We're transitioning from our in-house software to an ISN product. We're going with those guys when it's just been the transition has been horrible for me this year. I've been overwhelmed because of the increase in business. I don't have time to get involved in those things anymore. I've got to just focus on what I do right and improving what I don't do right and try to do it better. But I read those forums all the time, and you're right. There's somebody in every one that it does make you look bad. You think, man, I don't want to work with this guy.
Oh yeah.
I don't have any of them in my market. The local people here that I deal with regularly, the local inspectors, have all been very amenable and all willing to help, and offering suggestions and advice when I ask. And it's been a very good big culture here. But those guys are out there. I don't know what the solution is for them. I mean, as long as there's an open forum.
I don't either. I put on there my idea about the GoPros. And, a couple of guys are like, yeah, that's a good idea. This one guy comes on there, that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. What a colossal waste of time. I've been, like you said, I've been doing this 45 years, not 45 years, but like 20 years.
Yeah, I mean.
And I said, you're right. It might be a dumb idea. I said, but, I bet you, of course, I shouldn't have responded, but I couldn't help it. I said, I bet you Woolworth thought some of the stuff Sears did was stupid. And I bet you Sears thought some of the stuff that Walmart did was stupid. And I just left.
I can tell you locally, when Walmart came in locally, that one of the Kmart managers said, they asked him if they were fearful of their business. He said, no, that's a fly-by-night organization.
Oh, yeah.
And the Kmart's done.
You got to adapt.
The thing with GoPros, you have to adapt. We've become such a litigious society that, it's all documentation, and it's cover your own ass, so to speak.
Absolutely.
We have, as home inspectors, we've got all the liability for a small paycheck.
You're exactly right.
The agent gets a huge chunk of money for a much smaller amount of liability.
And so does the mortgage lender. I mean, we get paid to lead and take the most amount. Most amount of liability.
And it's very easy to pick apart an inspection report or to circumvent it or subvert it, whatever you want to say. So documenting it and having that in place is, I think it's an excellent idea. Just as a avenue of redress to address these people that are criticizing or suing you or demanding a refund or
absolutely.
Well, they're here. They've got the other agent in their ear. They've got the pet. You need to ask that guy for a refund. He should have seen this. That kind of stuff. But
I hear it all the time. And I talk with some of our local inspectors here, and I'm really, I've got this here. Yeah, we say the same thing.
He is for a fraction of the work and none of the liability.
And I know I'm going to sound negative here, but with some folks, if something goes wrong, you know who the first person to be sold down the river is.
Yeah.
You're the most expendable person in the deal. But let's keep it positive.
We are the most expendable person in the chain. So let me ask you a question. You're talking about the GoPros. You're using drones now to some degree. Is that correct?
Well, yes and no. I mean, I got them. I was all excited. I thought it would be a USP. But then what's happening is they're getting such a bad rap because of all the kids flying them over stadiums and the FAA. So
that's where I was going. What have you had any issue with liability or FAA regulations?
Well, we're sort of in a holding pattern, literally and figuratively.
Okay.
We're kind of waiting to see how that's all going to settle out. I mean, I'll tell you right now that if I had a slate roof tomorrow and I couldn't get on it, I'm going to take it. I'm not going to charge anything because if I have a tool that I can, do a better job for my client, I'm going to do it. But I'm not going to charge. I mean, we're not advertising it. We're just kind of, we were initially, but we're kind of holding off on that to see how the FAA, how that shakes out. But
I know
go ahead.
The FAA had threatened realtors with using them for, doing the virtual tours of the property and the homes and using drones.
But that the people who are using them for commercial use aren't the problem. It's the kids that are flying over the stadium. The people who are using them for commercial use are being responsible, and you're only flying, less than 100 feet. I mean, it's when they fly up over 400 feet, they're in flight patterns. And I don't know. We're just sort of waiting to see how that goes.
Okay.
I mean, we have them, and they're a heck of a lot of fun.
I can imagine.
But yeah, we're just sort of waiting to see how that all shades out. But hopefully they'll come up with something. But anyway, let's change it to something a little more fun here. Doug, what's the wildest, craziest, weirdest thing you've ever found on a home inspection? And remember, I'm a G-rated show here. I told After.
Yeah, that takes out about most of the stuff I find. Well, I'm not sure how I can even word this. We'll start out by saying that if you know the home inspector's coming, it's been scheduled for 5 or 6 days.
Right.
You know the pest guy's coming.
Right.
Take the handcuffs off the bedpost.
Oh!
Take I've seen that multiple times. Take all
wow.
the, for lack of a better word, toys off the dressers and
they party in Chattanooga.
adult. Yeah. I've seen handcuffs multiple times on bedposts.
Wow.
All 4 bedposts, you know.
Oh, my gosh.
Those sorts of things you think. Oh, and you could tell they hurriedly cleaned the house up and just completely forgot that they were there.
Yeah.
You know, other than the obvious stuff, I've seen radiator hoses used as kitchen sink plumbing. Found 2 of those in the same month a year and a half ago.
Wow.
And I'm not sure. The first one I thought, well, you know, they may have sprung a leak on a Sunday night. But I can't get to the hardware store. This will work until tomorrow. And then just forgot about it. But when I found the next one 2 weeks later, I thought, this is
it's not a question.
They had hose clamps holding them on and everything. But yeah, the crazy. Yeah, I found the drugs. People forget to leave their. I'll just be honest. The people with bags of cocaine, marijuana, pills, syringes.
Wow.
Very horrible stuff like that. Where you think, man, there's also kids' toys and kids' bedrooms in this house, and you've got hypodermic needles laying around with what appears to be bags of heroin, and you know, that stuff that you look at and you think, wow, this is just wrong.
Yeah.
That is one of the things next year. I'm trying to figure out how to get certified on meth. We have a big, huge meth problem in Tennessee. Chattanooga, the rural areas around Chattanooga, meth labs, what they call shake and bake labs, and you know, meth has telltale signs. I have been in houses where without being trained, just basic knowledge, I knew it had been a meth house, a meth cookhouse. There are some signs, pink residue. Of course, the smell from cooking meth is a heavy ammonia smell. It can
right.
be used with a house that has a lot of cat urine, basically. Heavy ammonia smell. The phosphorus from cooking the meth becomes vaporized. It reacts with paper and drywall. You'll see pink splotches on white drywall. That's residue from meth cooking. You know, things of that nature. I have seen that multiple times in a couple of particular areas in Chattanooga that are known for it. And I'm trying to figure out how to get better educated and certified in that so I can educate realtors on that.
You know, we had one we found by accident, Doug. It was a flipped house, so they had been, you know, recarpeted, repainted, and all that. But one of my guys went in there, and we were checking. We have carbon monoxide detectors, and thing started going nuts. And well, unfortunately, we called the HVAC guy out, and you know, we thought it was a cracked heat exchanger or something. And I mean, like I said, this house looked good because they had repainted, recarpeted, everything, but. He said, man, it's not cracked or anything. So we actually paid the guy for his time. But then, you know, it's like, and then so we took another one out and thought, well, maybe it's a calibration of that thing. And the other one, it went off crazy too. And I started researching it, and I called the manufacturer and stuff. And there's something. Here's what we figured out. There's something in some type of petroleum product used in the cooking of meth or the release or something. That sets that carbon monoxide detector off. And so ethylene or something, I'm not sure. Yeah. It's been a couple of years, but it actually it was really bad in the garage. And when you went up close to the wall, and I got to talking to one of the neighbors, and sure enough, they said that, yeah, man, that place was, whoever lived there, they were partying, and they had all the walls blacked out too. And that was another sign in one of them. And you know, I just put it on there that they have to have, you know, environmental because it's, you know, it will be above my pay scale. But something had going on, and I suspect
and people don't realize you have to be very careful because meth in particular, if the products are still there, particularly the phosphorus, reacts with air, it's very dangerous. If you ever see a Pyrex dish with crystallized material in it that's covered with plastic, don't pull that plastic off. That's where meth labs explode. That stuff becomes reactive with air. That becomes a heavy meth lab with all the chemical residue can become an EPA cleanup site, and it's a minimum $10,000 to clean that up to their standards. You have to be very careful with labeling something as a meth lab or actually finding one and not reporting it, but people don't realize, you rent your property, this guy can start cooking meth in there and you're on the hook for the cleanup. So
yeah, well, if you get certified in that, I'm interested to hear more about that training and what it involves.
All right, as soon as I can figure it all out, I've got emails and feelers out to a number of law enforcement agencies to try to figure that out. But I did do one recently also that had a 4-foot crawl space, but they had dug out a large section, about 12-foot by 12-foot section of the crawl space. It was 8 feet deep. They had built stud walls into 2 small rooms, and they had lined them with metallic insulation, the styrofoam, the Tyvek type stuff, with metallic backing. So they had 2 small rooms down there with grow lights in them, and had tapped into the water line and run a plastic line hose across the floor joist and poked holes in it as a sprinkling system. And you could see on the dirt ground in there the circles from 5-gallon buckets. And the buyer gets in there with me, and she said, well, what was this? And I said, ma'am, they were growing marijuana in here. Well, shouldn't they have just been growing plants? And I said, well, look at that crawl space door. How many crawl space doors have you ever seen that had a lock on the inside? It's had a slide bolt on the inside of the crawl space door. So who locks themselves in with their rosebuds?
Yeah, exactly.
So you see that stuff. That's quite often, but the usual stuff, the handcuffs and all that, and the drugs, that's pretty common. Unfortunately,
put some pictures on Facebook, man. I want to see that.
I have sent some pictures to other people as a joke, saying, "Man, look at this." Some other inspectors, we kind of joke around on stuff we find, and some real estate agents that I deal with. But the thing is, these people know you're coming. It was scheduled.
I know.
Clean that stuff up. Thanks. Take that stuff.
Exactly.
I've walked into an inspection where the buyer was there, and I had the buyer's agent with me, and the buyer and the homeowner was sitting in the house watching porn.
Oh, my gosh. While you're there?
Right there in the living room while we're walking through the house. And he's like, yeah, you guys call me if you need anything. Sitting there watching porn on his 60-inch flat panel.
Wow. Wow.
We're just looking at each other going, what can you say to this guy?
I know. And I'm usually pretty witty to come up with a joke. I got nothing.
Yeah.
I just like, really? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, man. People, never cease to amaze me, I guess. But it's just funny stuff. I mean, we see a lot of stuff. It's just, I find curious a lot of it, but,
It's crazy. Well, Doug, we're winding down here. Do you have an internet or a marketing resource you'd be willing to share with anyone, or something that you found, like an app or something?
Man, I don't have anything in particular. I use all of them. Facebook is a huge. I actually get probably, have a business Facebook page, WinChat, and then I have my personal page, which is I use predominantly for. I have to be careful what I put on there, and I get myself in trouble because the majority of my friends are local real estate agents.
Mine too.
If I could put, I am years of poker playing, hanging around those tables. I talk like a sailor. Nothing's off limits. So I have to be very careful about what I put out there to keep from offending people. But I get probably 1 or 2 inspections a month off of Facebook, where people, even if it's a friend of a friend or a high school friend that I haven't seen in 30 years, hey, man, I didn't know you were doing home inspections. My wife and I are buying a home. It is absolutely free. You can change it. You can put helpful tips out there for home buyers, get a few agents on there, and that stuff gets spread around. It gets shared. That is a huge resource for me. LinkedIn and those types of things. I use all of social media that I can. I'm not real big on Twitter and some of those things. I don't have time for that. But anything that's free, any app that's free, I've tried them all and still try them all. They all have value to me. Anything that's low cost. And next year I'm trying to pare down, and I'm looking for some things that will help me save time. I need efficiency tools.
Sure.
I don't need another Facebook that's a time drain to have to get on there and answer, crazy posts. But I need things that are going to make scheduling easier. That are going to make reminders, tickler files that are going to pop up reminders to do this and do that, follow up on with an agent or a potential client, things of that nature. I don't really have any. Like I said, I use them all to some degree, and I'm trying to pare down and just identify those that are really beneficial to me.
Right. And, to add to your point on Facebook, it's just like dinner table conversation, like your grandma always said, stay away from sex, politics, and religion. You don't want to talk about anything controversial. And I see some inspectors, putting that, especially around election time. I'm like, man, you got real estate agents that use you that are on both teams.
That's exactly right.
Why would you want to, tick somebody off? I mean,
man, it is so easy. That's the whole key. 95% of my business comes from real estate agent referrals, particularly the large offices, the Keller Williams. In this area, we have a Crylike. I don't know if they're in your area or not, but Remax, Prudential, those types of offices. It is very easy. As soon as you get entrenched in one of those offices and start getting a lot of work, it is very easy to offend somebody, not meaning to, and they all eat lunch together. They all hang out together. They go to church together. They work together. All the agents are in their own clique. Word travels. It really does. And it's you can be well-meaning and be stating something that you have a deep, heartfelt opinion on, and not realize that it's gonna bite you severely. And you don't even see it coming. So it's best to not even have the discipline not to even put that stuff out there. Just
keep it light, keep it happy, keep it positive.
Yes,
is the last thing. Well, is there anything, Doug, that you're working on right now that has you jacked up? I know you talked about your infrared and you're learning more about that.
Yeah, I'm. That's becoming. I want to get into some. I actually want to get into what I initially started to get in for was real estate investing next year. I'm going to try to do a flip house or two. I've got a couple of investors that do it, and a bunch of. One thing you gain over a couple of years of doing home inspections, you develop a list of quality carpenters, contractors, roofers, plumbers, electricians, people that you can trust that do quality work. So I've got my team together. I just need to actually pull the trigger on that. But getting into thermography, I'm a gadget guy, so I love the technical tools that are being developed that help home inspections. I love all the gauges and all the little gizmos we carry around. Even some of it doesn't appear in my report, but I use it behind the scenes. I'm a tech guy, but that's pretty much it. I'm looking forward to getting into that and just trying to learn more about it next year and developing that revenue stream.
That's good. That's very smart about developing a team to flip a house there. All right, now this question's going to be a little you have to think about this. Well, you saw it ahead of time, but if you had to move to a brand new town equal to the size of the one where you live now, and you had to start all over, room and board are taken care of, and you still have all of your same equipment and knowledge, and you had $5,000, what are you going to do in the first week?
Man, that is easy. I buy $1,000 worth of business cards and $4,000 worth of gasoline. Because I'm going to drive there. This business is a face-to-face business, and it's built on relationships. You cannot effectively develop relationships over email, through mail-out flyers. You have to physically meet these agents and talk to them. Ask them. Don't be afraid to ask agents, what are you looking for in a home inspector? What do you like? What do you not like in home inspections? I've got to do a better job next year. In fact, I want to get some focus groups with the agents. I'm taking them to lunch, basically one-on-ones. What have I been doing in the last couple of years that you don't like? Well, here's my report, one of my reports I sent you. How would you like to see that change? What would help you in your job? I want to be doing more of what they need, not what I'm selling them.
Right. No,
It's really easy. A lot of these software packages are very similar, but they need to be customized. Every market is different. Every agent is different. So I need to develop those things for those agents. And like I said, with $5,000, a small budget getting started, which is essentially what most home inspectors have to start.
Absolutely.
There is nothing going to get you more effective outcomes in business than business cards and just face-to-face meeting. It's a time thing. It's getting yourself in front of them, making yourself known, growing your presence. And I just don't think you can do that through social media, through emails. It's a personal relationship thing.
No, I'm with you 100%. I'll be right behind you in the car behind you.
So
doing
really,
the same thing.
This is the kind of business that having a low budget starting out doesn't hurt you, because it doesn't cost anything to talk to a real estate agent, take them, meet them for lunch somewhere, just talk to them offline and over coffee at a Starbucks and drill them. Most of them are more than happy to answer questions and spend an hour or two talking to you about real estate industry, what helps them, what hurts them. It helps you in your business. If I'm doing something that's hurting the agent, I mean, one of the things they drilled into us at Wynn, our job is we have two jobs. One is to educate the buyer without alarming the buyer. The second is to help facilitate the transaction. If I'm doing something that I think is part of my normal procedure, and it's actually hindering or killing the transaction, when I could easily be doing it differently and not having it affect what I should be doing, I need to be changing my operation, my practice. So
good stuff.
It's fluid. It's evolving. I mean, we have to continuously change and evolve and evolve with it.
I hear you. That's great. Just two more questions here, Doug. I know you've been so gracious with your time, and I'm sorry we got talking some stories, man. I could do that all evening.
I could too.
Is there anything that I didn't ask you that I should have?
Probably. How could I effectively become a Los Angeles Rams fan and save face by jumping on Carolina gear? I could help you out with that. I've read your post too.
We are in the playoffs. I don't know if we deserve to be, but
we're in that 6-year rebuilding mode.
I hear you.
Rebuilding mode. No, man, I'm not even sure how I found you on Facebook. There was Ken Compton or one of these things. I saw your post on there, and I was just looking, and I saw what you're doing. How did you find the time to develop all of this marketing? I mean, the continuous, because that's it. I mean, you're going to those offices with crazy pants on and all that stuff, taking lunch to them. Those are very effective tools. But you're developing flyers and brochures and marketing materials. Do you actually sit down and type this stuff out, or is this outsourced?
Well, my wife outsourced to my wife, but in the house. It's in the house, but outsourced for me. She does a lot of it, and it did help. Once I've got inspectors, so I spend a lot of time doing the marketing.
You're freed up.
Yeah, when I was a one-man shop, what I did was I tried to time block and say, protect, half a day or whatever to
Got to do that.
I've
got to do that, yeah.
And the problem is a lot of times you start getting inspections and, you're busy and, you forget to do it. Now, I call it that roller coaster ride. And then all of a sudden, because there's a high turnover in the real estate business, you don't keep up that marketing. A lot of these agents that were sending you business, now they've found other jobs and all of a sudden the phone stops ringing and you got to get back out there. And, it takes a while, 60 to 90 days to see the fruits of your labor. So, if you can, you've got to keep marketing. You just can't stop.
and that's where you asked me earlier where I was falling off and where the floodgate opened. I had gotten complacent with my marketing, and once I started getting back out there and doing it, the effect was immediate. But it's one thing I'm running into here. I think agents have figured out there's less work for the same amount of money or more as a selling or listing agent versus a buyer's agent. You're not driving people around showing them 20 houses and being frustrated. You've got one house there. They're coming to you. So a lot of my agents, particularly in the Keller Williams, for instance, their business model, they all come in as buyer's agents. But over the year or two, they develop relationships with me. I'm doing a lot of transactions for them. And then they figure out their business model needs to be getting into the listing side. Right. So you get fewer and fewer inspections from them as they make that transition. And eventually they do nothing but listing. They do very little on the buying side. And an agent that's been sending you, 5 or 6 inspections a month, all of a sudden is gone.
Right.
Like I said, you've got a whole new crop of agents coming in every 3 or 4 months as the local real estate group, Chattanooga Real Estate Association, pumps this group of new agents out every 3 or 4 months, this new class. You've got to develop relationships continuously.
You're absolutely right. No, I'm with you. Amen. Amen. Mm-hmm. Well, Doug, you have been more than gracious with your time. You have dropped a whole lot of value nuggets on the people listening, and I know they're gracious. And I got a feeling some people might want to get in touch with you. I hope that's okay. Is there a way they can get in touch with you?
No problem at all, brother. Like I said, I have no life. I'm up late at night and up early, so they can call me pretty much 20. I tell my agents, I said, when I send this report out, if you've got any questions or need clarification, call me 24/7. And I've gotten emails at 3 a.m. but business in general, man. I'm always happy to talk to positive, motivated people that are trying to improve their life and situation. And I learned something. That's why I love doing home inspections, man. I learned something on every inspection. Everybody has a story. I'm learning from the agents every day, from the clients. I'm meeting some amazing people, from 20-year-olds buying houses to 95-year-old World War II veterans. The amazing stuff you can learn from people and their stories. So it's a people business. So I'm more than happy to talk to you.
Well, what do you have a website or email, phone number they could reach you?
I've got a ridiculously long URL that was forced on me by the corporation. It's winhomeinspectionchattanooga.com.
Okay.
You can actually go to winnie.com, WINI.com, and key in Chattanooga or Tennessee and scroll down till you find Doug Gray, and it will link you to me directly. Most of the interaction I get with people is off. Just go to Facebook and type in WinChat, WINCHATT, and that takes you to Win Home Inspection Chattanooga, my site there. You can message me there, or my personal Facebook page, Doug Gray. That's GRAY. I'm on there continuously also. So feel free to call or ask questions, and I'll be happy to talk to anybody.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Doug. You've been more than gracious, and we really appreciate it.
Thank you a lot, Preston. I appreciate it greatly.
All right. Have a good one. You have been listening to the Successful Home Inspector podcast, where we share funny stories, and we talk about how to increase your business, and we share some success stories and some not so success stories that we can learn from. We're also here to share resources. You can find out more about today's show in show notes at thesuccessfulhomeinspector.com. Thanks for listening.